My name is Larry Harris, trumpet player for Mass Extinction, aka Lil Larry.
Antonio Robinson, aka Tonio, drummer for Mass Extinction.
Lawrence Griffin, aka Go Go Lawrence, trombonist.
All right, give us a little history about the band.
The history from the band did not start with us. We are probably second phase of Mass Extinction. There was, people from the neighborhood that was part of the beginning of Mass Extinction. Our phase came in later on. I met these three brothers. I met Lawrence in junior high school, met Tonio in high school, and we was part of Cadoza marching band, and we started a band called Radiation together. And during that time frame, we were young, we was innocent, we playing R&B music, we playing anything that we play, all type of funkadelic stuff. So we had a practice off of Otis Street at a Michael Davis house. And Spuddy heard us playing, and he banged on the door, and we wouldn't let him in. We like, not by the hair out, chinny chin chin. And
This is Spuddy.
so one thing, so we knew who Mass were because there was a lot of Northwest bands, a lot of groups. You go to any alley in Washington D.C., almost it seemed like there was a live band playing. We played in the Showmobile during the summertime, things of that nature. But the start of us, I actually left Radiation. Man Fisher, we call him Man Fisher, was a great trumpet player, still is a great trumpet player. He saw me coming down the alley. I was coming from Cadoza practice, and he said, Larry, I want you to join the band. And I was like, nah, Fish, I don't want to join. And he was like, come on, man, we'll work together. So once I got with the band and found out what the horn section was like, and next thing I know, I called Lawrence up, and I let him tell that story. And from there, we started to build a horn section that is still recognized as the Horny Horns.
Well, when I first came into the band, I was a backup drummer because they had already had their drummer in place named Michael Lynch, and I believe he worked at night, and so several times he could not make rehearsals, so I would cover the rehearsals. But when it came down to the shows, I was basically down to only playing two songs. That was like Mary Jane by Rick James, and LTD had a song called Jam. And as time went on, he began working more at night, and I began filling his role, so I became the drummer for Mass Extinction. Then when we turned over to Go-Go back in '79, thank you Trouble Funk for introducing us to Go-Go. That's when I really began to perfect my drumming and just come around being an well-round drummer. So like I say, it all began for me for '79, playing at Club LeBaron with Mass and everything. So, Lawrence, you can elaborate from there.
Hi, my start with Mass was Larry. Larry, when the horn section that he got in, it was him, another trumpet player, well-known trumpet player, Warren Fisher, their cousin Robbie, and they had a sax player. I don't remember his name, but all I know, his nickname was One Note. And they used to tease him about that. So when Larry called me, I was like, man, I'm not playing with them. And he kept calling me. So he was like, Lawrence, man, you gotta play with me. He said, I can't take it. So I finally caved in and did a show with them. And the thing was, I was one of those horn players that whatever came out on the radio, I'm at home playing it. So when I got there, I knew every song that they were playing. And then from there, we built our horn section. Started with me and Larry. We picked up Alan Harris on sax. And then later on that year, Kevin Thomas. And we built that horn section from there. But one thing I want to add to that, we wasn't the original horn players of Mass Extinction, but we were the horn section of Mass Extinction that everybody know. And they had a lot of horn players before and after us, but we are the ones that everybody know, and we're the horn section that the ones that they had after us was living off our reputation.
Can I also elaborate too? We like to give a special shout out to people back then used to work at the Showmobile because we used to practice there, and that's where we really perfected and built up our craft back then. The horn section used to practice in one section of the Showmobile's facility, and we was in the main, the rhythm section was in the main studio, like. So that's where we really perfect and build our sound from there. And shout out to who's no longer here, Mr. Gray, because he opened a lot of doors for Mass Extinction.
Not just Mass Extinction, almost every band that ever came through DC or performed in DC, from when the Summer in the Park started, all the way to the Showmobile, and pretty much all the way to the day he died.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of groups like us, Rare Essence, Trouble, EU, Soul Searchers. I go far as back as Jimmy Castor and the Jimmy Castor Bunch.
Wow.
Yeah, because he had some pictures of them up there too. So I'm taking that they did some Showmobile things too. But then I want to give a shout out to that family, the late great Raymond Gray, the late great Marjorie Clark of the Jewels. Yep. She worked up there too. Mr. Gilbert Pryor, Mr. Matthew Allen, Mr. Harold Hall, Mr. Harold Young, and Miss Carolyn Mills.
Yes.
Did I miss anybody?
No.
You named the whole building at that time.
Yeah, they did. But they was mentors to us too. They always had some words of wisdom, advice to perfect us and everything for us to move forward. And we all took their words very deep. And like I say, they was very inspirational to all of us here.
I want to give a lot of respect to those who taught us how to play and really gave us a platform and a blueprint. I'm going to give out my man Vincent Smalls. I mean, he was like an idol. He was a trumpet player in Lincoln, and back then I was playing baritone, and I kept practicing. And then, of course, everybody wanted to be in Cadoza Marching Band. And Cadoza had the best musicians in Washington, D.C. It wasn't Dunbar, it wasn't Wilson.
Definitely wasn't Easton.
It wasn't Easton.
Baloo.
You can name any high school band. Cadoza used to shut down the parades wherever they went. And,
we was the Chuck Brown of the marching band.
Right. Matter of fact, we were the first marching band for prep band for Georgetown before Georgetown even came as probably they did with John Thompson. So we was always there. So in order for us to be better, we had icons in Cadoza that really shined us up and sharpened us to be who we were. Now, we was young bucks when we came there, and I know the first time when Dyke, and give out a shout out to Dyke.
Robert, what's his last name?
I forgot, but everybody know him by Dyke, and that's why I know him by.
He's no longer here.
He's no longer here, but he was really the stepping stone that gave us our first show out at Palmer Park. And,
What was the name of the club?
Club to Burn. And the first time we ever heard go-go was then, because we were still playing R&B back then. And you got to think about, we was all in suits, and to have our poster outside the door or on the tree outside of Cadoza, that was huge, especially against all of those musicians that we had that was way past us as far as expertise. And one of the key things were to be, they always taught, we always played. We had to play because they wasn't allowing us to be in the band. That band, Cadoza band was huge to be part of. But with that said, we was on stage with Trouble Funk, and it was dark inside the building. And when we played our first set, and back then go-go used to go from 10 to 6 in the morning. And I was young, so my moms wouldn't let me go. My sister had to be my escort, you know. She's like, nah, you go out there. Anyway, but make a long story short, we started playing. And Lons and them would say more than that. I saw about 6 people in front of the stage.
That was Dyke and whoever he was dancing with, Tony, whoever he was dancing with.
Right. And my sister, a couple of...
Yeah, we had about 12.
Yeah, well, he say 12, I see 6.
With 6 couples.
But we was on the same stage. So say this right here, where we sitting at right now.
We was
this
on the left and they were on the right.
Right. So next thing you know, we heard, "You ready, Dyke? You ready, Tony? You ready? You ready?" And next thing, boom, boom, and that sound came on, and Tony Fisher was like, "Good God!" And people came out the woodwork, and I guarantee you, everybody like, "What are they playing?" And that's the first time we all experienced like
A taste of real hard go-go.
And we like, wow. And that bass and that sound, it was just unbelievable. And Tony Fisher was like, "We got so-and-so in the house, and everything gonna be all right." I'm like, what is he saying? It was just kind of crazy. And then we came back on our second set, and we tried to do something mimicking that. And then next thing you know, Mass went into, we still playing our R&B, we still going around playing different places, but we playing go-go. And sorry, Boozy, I had to mention this. Essence was coming to Emory Park, and back then it was called the Moped Crew, and they shut down Georgia Avenue, and we was on 14th Street, and we heard it all the way over there because we was going to go see a well-known DJ. He was partying at a place, and they said, "Man, Essence up at the park," and we all went over to the park, couldn't even get up there, and man, they had the whole Emory Park shut down. And then we went back, and Daryl West, you can admit, we finally convinced Bougie to play go-go. And that's and now you got to think about it. And this could be true or not, but most of the go-go's came out of the southeast area. So we kind of like was the beginning of the northwest area. Right. So if you look at all the split up of the DCs, southeast, northeast, southeast, and northwest, everyone had their own sound and their own reputation. So, and then right after that, then we start seeing a mixture of Northwest bands. So our next challenge band as far as our competition was the Peacemakers. So shout out to the Peacemakers. They were a great band. I got nothing but love for them. You know, all the things that happened, but you know, Tony and Lance can speak on more on how we got started.
We went, matter of fact, we went to high school with some of the Peacemakers and everything. So we didn't look at them as a rival. I look at it was not really a rival. Everything was like in competition on stage. You know, you did your show. You let the people decide. There was no hating like that. It was just like I say, it was just almost like the Time and Prince going at each other. So that's the way I looked at it. But again, I love when we played against another band because it measures you as a musician and your band to see where you measure as far as with your playing ability and how you come across to the people and everything else. And I love it. I love it to this day when I play. As far as playing with another band, because again, it gives you something to shoot for. But just overall, like Larry said, you know, we had a lot of good groups in Northwest, and they all came to the Gardens to play, and we had no hatred towards nobody. We welcomed any and everybody that came up there when we played with bands. So my thing is all over. Go-Go was all over, but still yet, Northwest had awesome bands just as well. Like you say, Peacemakers, Petworth, Pump Blenders, Busey Brothers. Anybody else I'm leaving out? I'm just naming Northwest for right now because, again, from what I'm listening to now, we don't get that much pub. Even though Backyard, as of lately, they're carrying the torch for us, Northwest, and maybe some other bands. But in our era, we was the band to be reckoned with. Sorry, that's the bottom line. We was the band to be reckoned with.
Now, before that Trouble Funk show, I don't know if y'all remember this, we did a show down Cardozo with the Peacemakers.
Extravaganza?
No. It was like a talent thing something we did at the school was out. And the Peacemakers, they were bad. They were bad back in the day. And we got on stage, you know, we was doing a little show and everything. Me and Larry got clowned the rest of the year about some little steps that we were doing. But when the Peacemakers came out, they came out with We Will Rock You. and Matt Curry, God rest his soul, tore them drums up.
Yeah.
And from there, we had to do a little woodshedding, because after that show with the Peacemakers, that was a taste of a real band back then for us when we started. Now this show at the Club LeBaron, like Larry said, when the lights was on, we playing Earth, Wind and Fire, Parliament, Funkadelic, anything that you heard on the radio, and we was hitting it. You know, Tony and Dyke and Taylor and them, they welcomed us in the Club LeBaron, open arms, made us feel good. But when they got on stage and they started playing, they spanked out behind so bad that it, had somebody go in your refrigerator without asking. That's how I felt when they struck up. Because, I met Dyke over at Howard. One year I was able to march in Howard's band, and he was a drum major. So, we was friends from there. And when they started playing, Dyke kept looking at me, winking his eye, was like, school is in session. And they tore it up. I'm still leaning against this car, I'm like, the hell are they doing? But it's funky.
Right.
And then, this is a funny one. I told Larry about this. Now, when we was playing, you ain't see nobody in there. Once trouble struck up, they hit the floor like roaches on a crumb.
Yeah, man.
And one of my cousins come bebopping by me, yeah, Lawrence, yeah. And I said to him, why were you dancing when we was playing? But that was an experience, within itself. And I really thank Trouble Funk for one, letting us play with them on that show and giving us a real true taste of what go-go was all about.
Because we all was an R&B band at one point. I mean, majority of the bands that we mentioned, we play R&B. I remember one time we went to go see EU.
Yeah.
They were playing straight up R&B.
It's like rock and roll.
Like rock and roll type go-go. It wasn't no go-go too much. It was just straight up R&B, and people was digging it. I mean, at one point before go-go came existence, people was loving R&B music.
It was a lot of bands back during that time that, it was a lot of bands. And what stuck out was moving that crowd. Because a lot of bands, they would play a song, stop, play a song and stop. And a lot of times you could tell who had that go-go feel, because when the power went out on stage and that drums and cowbells and congas get to kicking, that's when you know who had the funkiest band. But far as musicianship, it was a lot of bands in DC that people forgot about, and these groups they were bad. And one thing that kept our heads in place was we knew a lot of these guys, and they were sharp. Meaning that, far as at the time walking around with an ego and like that, no, we couldn't do that. And then by all of us coming out of Cardozo High School, we learned that it's always, I don't care how good you are, how bad you are, it's always going to be somebody better than you. Meaning that if you walked around like you was just that bad, that one next person was going to tear you up. So we was very humble towards a lot of bands, a lot of musicians coming up, because we were trained that no, you can be the best, but you're not the best.
Well, to me, in my era, I had some plenty drummers that was very sharp. And roll call, if you really want to call this, Sugarfoot Ricky Wellman, rest in peace. Matt Curry, rest in peace. Quentin Foots Davison, rest in peace. Heavy one for Junkyard, rest in peace again. It was some dynamite juju. I consider him in our era to a degree.
What about the drummer for EU?
Butch, rest in peace, another one. A lot of drummers that was in our era, man, everybody had their own style. You can never pick out one. Rick stood out over all of us because he just had the hands and the foot and the power.
Him and what's his name, Rick too?
Rick
Trouble?
and for Trouble Funk, shout out to him too. In my era, but like I said, we had some dynamite drummers. Everybody did their thing. Shout out going to Ghost for Petworth. Also Gerald for the Pump Blenders. My thing is when I play with bands, I was always one to go up to another drummer and conversate. You know, not in hatred, but we just fellowship and talk about drums or music or anything. And so that's kind of camaraderie we had amongst the drummers back then. Same as the new drummers of today that I have came across. I have met some awesome drummers that has a different style from back in the day, but we all still bring the common cause of keeping the funk and keeping that timing. So shout out to the new school drummers as well. Much respect.
Okay. What were some of your favorite venues back in the day?
Oh, for me, the Northwest Gardens, I love playing up there because that was our main spot, and the people loved us up there. Another spot was the Howard Theater, and the reason why I bring the Howard Theater up, that was like playing for us at the time. For a lot of bands, like almost playing at the Capitol Center. When you play at the Howard Theater, the Howard brought out the best in you. And any band, if it was 3 or 4 bands, they gave it their best. And the other spot was 14th Street. That was our neighborhood that we grew up in. And the people loved us up there. And when we played, it was outstanding.
For me, I would say Northwest Gardens my first and always love because once again I always thought that was our home, and no matter what band came in there, we was never fear of no band and the sound and what they brought to the table, because we knew we were gonna bring ours. So whoever came in through them doors of Northwest Gardens, they was in for it because we was ready for them. You know, that's the bottom line. So, but my second one will be Emory Heights. Special shout out going to my man Mac. He was no longer here because he was a very integral part as far as us playing up there and still doing the Georgia Avenue Day thing. So I want to give a shout out to him. And my third one was wherever we played outside, because everybody was not able to come to the gardens or any venues that we played. So we covered a lot of block parties back in the day. That's when it was safe to do block parties. You can come to a block party, have a good time, not looking over your shoulders. I mean, anything worse with maybe a fight. But hey, all we had to say, we're gonna shut it down if y'all don't stop it. They shut it down. Next thing you know, we back into the groove and everything else is going on, man. So for me, the third one will be like playing at an outside or a block party. Yeah.
I must admit that I had to reminisce on all the venues that we played at. So I'm going to reorganize my picks. So I'm going to put the Northwest Gardens because, like Tony and Lon said, the integral part of Northwest was the garden, the Emory Park, as well as the high schools like Coolidge, a couple of other schools that we played at frequently, Wilson, that we played at frequently. I'm going to say the Maverick Room second because to me that was our second home because both times we had shows there, scheduled shows on Thursdays and Sundays. One of the two, I can't remember. Wednesdays. I'm sorry, Wednesdays.
Wednesdays at the Maverick Room and Thursdays at the Gardens.
Right. And one of the things that in the third one would probably have to be, for me, the Showmobile. I didn't put that on there first because I thought the Showmobile gave us more flexibility because we went around all the boroughs, and it's not New York, but I would say all of the areas of Washington, D.C., and it gave us opportunities to play at the RFK Stadium for like private parties for the Washington Skins. And we also did other selected parties through Mr. Gray, but they put us under their wing, and I think those type of venues really geared us up for the future, for getting us started. But all in all, I think every venue that we played at was hot, you know, and we love to play against other bands. We love to be headliners. If we wasn't headliners, we want to, you know, not the headliners. We want to beat the band that put us the opening act. And no band, once you establish yourself, did not want to be a headliner. You don't want to be the opening act for any band. You want to be the band. So that's how we rocked it. And one other thing that we haven't mentioned yet, maybe that come in. One of the things that we was geared not to do is listen to, or dance to other bands' music, because everybody had their own unique sound. And it's almost like you're compromising or giving in that you're weak. I think that kind of have the crews that came through what area the DC you was with to represent that band. And I think that had a lot to do with it. But to this day, I still listen to all the go-go bands. I think they're fabulous. They all had their own sound. And shout out to all the bands that participated in the documentary. But, you know, this is our life.
Well, let me ask you this. What do you think about the recent documentary on go-go?
Oh, wow. I didn't like it. I did not like it. And a lot of people say Rock and Plain. I don't think I didn't see any communication from James Funk, who's an iconic figure in go-go history outside of, you know, the Little Bennies and your Chuck Browns. We did have Big Tony and Sugar Bear on there, but they miss a lot of bands that really made the fabric of go-go. You know, we mentioned the Peacemakers, we mentioned the Bootsy Brothers, the Petworths, the Northeast Groovers, Air Raid. There's a lot of groups that actually had their areas of wherever it was, the Maryland area who grew up, the Northwest area that grew up. I'm not sure of any bands from Virginia. But then we moved on, we recorded records and things of that nature. But go-go, the heart of go-go, started from all of those groups having their own sound, their own flavor, and representing DC the way it's supposed to. And I think the documentary, one other thing I don't like, two things about what they did with go-go. It came around the same time hip-hop was starting to blossom, and they did the movie Good to Go. And I thought that's one of the worst movies to depict Washington, D.C., because of what it did. It depicted the elderly women down on H&H crew and all the things that they did to her really made the D.C. look like something. And then they had the police and all this other stuff and drugs. It really depict Washington, D.C. as some turmoil, or, you know, hoodlum and all this other thing that goes along with it. And then they topped it off with the documentary, which we should have cleaned. I mean, yes, no matter where you go, you can be in a rock and roll band, you could be a rhythm and blues band. People get drunk or things happen, it's going to happen. But the love inside those coliseums, those vineyards. And one thing a lot of people don't realize, the go-go bands used to control the crowd. If a fight break out, stop, hey, break this up. We had security, we had a lot of things. So once again, stop depicting go-go as some hoodlum type of music, what it was not. It was documentary. The documentary should have pushed go-go as the sound of DC, because it's the original. It's no other sound in the world like Washington, D.C. You got jazz music across the country, in any part of the state. You have hip-hop in every area code in the United States. But go-go has its own history, and it should be recognized that way. And not shout out to those who put that documentary together, but the hell with those who put it together that was wrong.
Now, two people that they left out of that I thought should have been in there because of the fact that they were actually part of the sound. You know, we all know Chuck Brown started the sound, but Chuck had a band with members in it. And two of his members is Donald Tillery and John Buchanan. They should have been in there because they were the ones that started this go-go sound. And, you know, I'm not criticizing the documentary because, you know, they did their thing. But it was a lot of forgotten history in it. And I'm quite sure they're going to do another one. But if they do, you got to include these guys. And I'm quite sure it was another Chuck Brown member that I think is still around, Skip Finley, one of the keyboard players. And if you're gonna talk what the original go-go, you got to bring these guys in there because they were the ones that created that sound. All this keyboard funk that you hear, all these horn funks that you hear, the congas, the drums, that's where it all started from, with the Soul Searchers. And I think if you're going to do it again, you might want to get as many of those guys that's still around to talk to them because, like I said, they started it. You know, it didn't start with Rare Essence, it started with Mass, Trouble Funk, EU, or the Peacemakers. We all started from them. And like I said, you really need to get those guys involved because they are the godfathers of go-go.
Well, the documentary was well done, but how much can you cover in 2 hours? You can't cover 40 years in 2 hours, so I'm sure they're planning on doing another documentary, and hopefully they will include some of the bands that has not got the publicity as the other bands. The top 6 bands will always get the publicity because they've done more, and that's no disrespect. They should get that publicity on that part. But there was other bands that was a part of the history because, again, these top bands that we keep that they display, there was opening bands for them. They did not play by themselves back in the day. There was always an opening band for these bands that they get the top recognition. So my thing is, hopefully they will cover all grounds on the next documentary, or if they do another series like the Michael Jordan thing, make series after series. Everybody should have a voice. It should be heard on this because everybody has a part of this thing we call go-go here in DC, and everybody should be just on display because, again, we all have a part of this. So that's why I'm hoping that, you know, across the board, everybody gets a say.
Okay, last question. Mass Extinction reunion. Is it coming or what? What's going on with that? Talk to me.
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't really, me personally, I don't think it's going to happen. My reason for that is because it's a lot of problems within our problems in the band as far as egos, dictatorship, leadership, and everything. And I'm just calling it like it is. You know, we all good friends, and we're gonna be friends the rest of our life. But as far as that band, just coming from me, I can't speak for everybody. Because for years we had talked about this. This has been something that's been going over for like maybe 15, 16 years, and we still haven't came to terms on how we're going to do it or when we're going to do it. It's always, you know, I got to talk to this person, I got to talk to that person, and pretty soon we're going to vanish. So it's not. I don't think it's going to be that. You know, if it is, it probably won't be all of the members that's in it. But for me, at this point in time in my life, I don't think I'm going to be doing it.
Let me take my glasses off. This one. Life is too short, fellas. We've been trying to plan this thing. You did an interview on us 2 years ago,
That's right.
14th and Urban, and we talked about coming together just to do that reunion. And I was all in. I'm currently still working. I'm working with 2 top-tier bands, really, in the city. So I would put things aside just to work with the band that gave me my platform, which was Mass Extinction. I have done 2 reunions with 2 other bands that I was not the original drummer. I'm like, you know, I was very proud and very happy that they asked me to be a part of that. I was not the original drummer, but still, I want, you know, the band that gave me my platform that I was known for, we can't come together just do a reunion. So, on that note, I'm just hoping before anybody eyes closed that we can get this done. If not, there are CDs out there, and I just live my history of mass extinction through the CDs that are out there now. I wish that we can come together as one to bring the magic and joy that we brought to millions, not millions, but a lot of people in DC. I'm sorry, but I'm kind of little despaired on this.